Rich man invites homeless black woman to his ex's wedding, but when she arrives, this happened. Marcus sat alone in his modern loft, gazing out at the lights of the city sprawling endlessly beneath him. The view was stunning, but his mind was elsewhere, swirling with memories of a life he once shared with someone special. In his hand, he held a beautifully crafted invitation, delicate calligraphy on expensive ivory paper, the kind you'd expect from a high-profile event. It was the invitation to the annual charity gala, hosted by none other than Lila, his ex-fiancée. They had parted ways nearly a year ago, but the wound was still fresh. For Marcus, this gala invitation was more than just a piece of paper. It was a painful reminder of what he had lost. Lila had left him, tired of feeling like a secondary priority in his life. She had wanted someone who would be there, present in every moment. But Marcus was always buried in work, driven by ambition, and constantly chasing the next big deal. Although he had tried to make things right, his efforts had come too late. As he looked at the invitation again, a flood of emotions washed over him: regret, loneliness, and a longing for closure he hadn't yet found. Attending alone felt unappealing. He knew the evening would be filled with affluent guests and old friends who knew him as Marcus and Lila. It would be impossible to ignore the lingering glances, the pitying smiles, and the inevitable gossip. A walk through the city. In an effort to clear his mind, Marcus decided to take a walk through the bustling streets below. The city was alive with people, strangers passing by, each with their own story, some happy, others maybe as complicated as his own. He wandered aimlessly, breathing in the crisp night air, trying to shake off the dread he felt about the gala. As he walked past a small park, his attention was suddenly drawn to a woman sitting quietly on a bench under a flickering street lamp. She was a stark contrast to the hurried crowd around her, sitting with a calm composure that made her almost invisible in the city's chaos. Her clothes were worn, her hair slightly disheveled, and her hands clasped in her lap as if she were holding on to something invisible, something only she could feel. But what truly caught Marcus's attention was her expression. There was a serene, almost graceful quality to it, despite her apparent hardships. In a way he couldn't explain, Marcus felt drawn to her. Perhaps it was the loneliness they both seemed to carry, or the quiet dignity in her eyes that spoke of resilience. He approached her gently, unsure if she'd even welcome a stranger's company. "Hi," he began, his voice soft. "My name is Marcus." The woman looked up, surprised by his friendly approach, but her expression quickly softened. "Hello?" she replied, her voice quiet but warm. "I'm Lila." As they began talking, Marcus found himself intrigued by Lila's quiet strength. Despite facing evident challenges, she spoke with grace and a wisdom that felt far beyond her years. She shared pieces of her life, a life marked by twists and turns, each one shaping her but never breaking her spirit. Lila didn't dwell on the hardships. Instead, she spoke of the small acts of kindness from strangers, moments of beauty that she held on to in a world that had often been unkind. As Marcus listened, a thought began to form, first as a passing whim, and then as a genuine impulse. He wasn't entirely sure where it was coming from, but the words left his mouth before he could stop himself. "Lila," he said, hesitating briefly, "would you like to come to an event with me tonight? It's a formal gala and, well, I could use some company." He quickly added, "I'd make sure you have a dress, everything you need for the evening. It would be an experience, something different." Lila blinked, clearly taken aback by the offer. She studied him, searching his eyes as if trying to gauge his intentions. "You want me to be your guest? At a formal event?" she asked, her voice laced with both surprise and a hint of doubt. "Yes," Marcus nodded, offering a reassuring smile. "Everyone deserves a night to feel special, don't they? And honestly, I could use the company." Lila considered his words, a small smile tugging at her lips. Finally, with a spark of excitement she couldn't hide, she nodded. "All right, Marcus, I'll go with you." Marcus felt a renewed sense of purpose as he guided Lila toward one of the city's most exclusive boutiques. The storefront glimmered under the night lights, and through the glass windows, rows of exquisite dresses hung like art pieces, each one an expression of elegance and beauty. Lila paused before the doors, a mix of excitement and hesitation crossing her face. "Are you sure this is all right?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. She held her worn coat a little tighter, as though trying to shield herself from the luxury surrounding her. Marcus nodded, his eyes warm. "Of course. Tonight, you're my honored guest. Let's make it a night you won't forget." Inside, the boutique was a world of splendor. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft glow, illuminating displays of jewelry and designer gowns. Lila seemed almost overwhelmed by the surroundings, her fingers lightly grazing the fabrics, as if doubting they were real. To her, this place was more like a dream than reality, a place she had only seen in movies or imagined in passing thoughts. The boutique staff, trained to notice even the smallest details, initially looked at her with an air of polite skepticism, as if wondering how she fit into this glamorous setting. Marcus noticed their glances, and with a simple but confident nod, he made it clear that Lila was to be treated with the same care and attention as any other guest. Quickly, their attitudes shifted, and they brought out the finest dresses, the most delicate shoes, and accessories that sparkled under the lights. One by one, the attendants presented options to Lila, encouraging her to try different styles. Each time she emerged from the fitting room, Marcus couldn't help but be captivated. She looked stunning, yet she still had an air of humility, a quiet strength that only grew more evident with each fitting. Finally, they found the perfect dress, a deep emerald green gown that complemented her features, bringing a glow to her face and a brightness to her eyes. As Lila stepped in front of the mirror, she gasped softly. Her reflection showed a woman she barely recognized, elegant and composed, with a hint of vulnerability and pride. "This doesn't even feel real," she whispered, looking at Marcus. Her eyes shimmered with emotion, a blend of joy, disbelief, and a kind of gratitude that words couldn't express. Marcus smiled, moved by her reaction. "It's real, Lila. You deserve this as much as anyone here. Tonight, you're not defined by anything other than your own beauty and grace." In this moment, Marcus realized that bringing Lila here was about more than just finding a date. It was about giving her a glimpse into a life she deserved, but had rarely, if ever, experienced. And for him, it was a reminder of what truly mattered beyond the success and ambition he had once placed above everything. The grand ballroom sparkled with opulence as Marcus and Lila entered, arm in arm. The air was filled with the murmur of conversations, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Crystal chandeliers hung above, casting a soft glow on the polished marble floors, while an orchestra played a gentle waltz in the background. Guests, dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits, moved gracefully through the room, their voices blending into a symphony of sophistication. As soon as they stepped in, a hush fell over the crowd. Heads turned, eyes widened, and whispers spread like wildfire. To the guests, Lila was an enigma, a beautiful, mysterious woman who carried herself with a quiet confidence. They could sense that she was different, but her poise made it impossible for anyone to overlook her. She wasn't just another guest. She was a presence that demanded attention. Across the room, Lina, Marcus's ex-fiancée, was mingling with other attendees, exchanging laughter and warm greetings. Her smile was radiant, her attire immaculate, but when her gaze fell on Marcus and Lila, her expression faltered. The sight of Marcus with another woman, one who exuded a natural elegance, stirred an uncomfortable feeling in her. She had expected Marcus to attend alone, perhaps to look melancholic or regretful. Instead, he seemed happier than she had ever seen him, and it was clear that he was captivated by his companion. As Marcus introduced Lila to various guests, each interaction was met with a mix of intrigue and subtle judgment. Some offered polite smiles, while others couldn't quite hide their curiosity. Lila sensed the whispers and the glances, but she held her head high, refusing to let their reactions affect her. For the first time, she felt like she truly belonged in a place she had always thought was beyond her reach. Eventually, Lena made her way over, her face composed, but her eyes betraying a hint of tension. She greeted Marcus with a practiced smile, her voice controlled. "Marcus, it's good to see you." Marcus returned her greeting with a polite smile. "Lena," he said, then turned to Lila. "This is Lila, my guest for the evening." Lena's eyes lingered on Lila for a moment, taking in the details. The elegant dress, the calm demeanor, the way she held herself with a grace that felt unforced. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Lila. You look lovely tonight," she said, her voice pleasant but laced with something else, a subtle unease. "Thank you," Lila replied, her tone warm yet firm. "Your event is beautiful. It's clear a lot of thought went into making it special." The air between them was thick with unspoken emotions, jealousy, regret, and a tension that neither could fully express. Lena's polished exterior began to show cracks as she sensed the genuine connection between Marcus and Lila. She had expected Marcus to be a shadow of his former self, but instead, he seemed to have found a light, one that shone brighter with Lila by his side. For Marcus, this moment was a revelation. Standing there with Lila, he realized that he no longer felt the weight of the past. The pain of his breakup with Lena seemed to fade, replaced by a newfound appreciation for the present and the person beside him. As the evening wore on, the orchestra began playing a slow, romantic tune, filling the hall with a sense of magic and anticipation. Marcus turned to Lila, his eyes soft with warmth. "May I have this dance?" he asked, extending his hand. For a moment, Lila hesitated, a mixture of excitement and nervousness flickering in her eyes. But the sincerity in Marcus's gaze gave her the courage she needed. She placed her hand in his, and together they stepped onto the dance floor. As they began to move to the music, Lila felt her apprehension melt away, replaced by a feeling of calm and joy she hadn't felt in years. In the background, Lena watched them, her heart sinking as she saw the connection that Marcus and Lila shared. The jealousy she felt was sharp, mixed with regret that she couldn't ignore. She had ended things with Marcus, believing he could never prioritize anything beyond his work. But seeing him now, so at ease and genuinely happy, made her question if she had made a mistake. For Marcus, the dance was more than just a moment of grace. It was a turning point. As he held Lila in his arms, he realized that what had begun as a spontaneous invitation had grown into something deeply meaningful. Lila wasn't just a beautiful woman to help him prove a point. She was someone he genuinely admired and respected, someone who had faced life's challenges with a quiet resilience that he found inspiring. In that moment, he understood that this night had become less about the past and more about the possibilities that lay ahead with Lila. As the song ended, Marcus looked into Lila's eyes, a newfound peace washing over him. They both knew that their journey was only beginning, and that whatever lay ahead, they were ready to face it together.